Some stories you hear are just so bizarre. They seem to defy all logic. And that is exactly what we're talking about today. An unsettling and deeply strange case from a quiet village in Japan all the way back in 1989.
And that brings us to the one central, almost unbelievable question of this entire story. How in the world does a grown man end up dead inside a toilet tank? It's a question that completely stumped the police, horrified an entire community, and, well, to this day, it's never really been answered.
Okay, so a quick but really important heads up before we dive in. Pretty much everything we know about this case comes from a Wikipedia article, and that article itself points out that there's a real lack of verifiable primary sources. So we're kind of exploring a story that lives somewhere between a documented fact and a truly chilling modern legend.
So let's set the scene. Picture this. It's the evening of February 28th, 1989, in the small mountain village of Miyakoji. A 23-year-old elementary school teacher is just getting back to the little wooden house that the school provides for its staff. And what she's about to find is going to change this quiet town forever.
Okay, so the bathroom in her house had an older traditional-style squat toilet, and it was connected to an outdoor tank. She goes to use it, glances down into the bowl, and sees something impossible. A shoe. Her heart starts pounding, she runs outside to the collection pit for the tank and sees the lid is just a little bit open. When she looks inside, her confusion turns into pure horror. She's staring at a human leg. So she makes a terrified call for help, and pretty soon the police and firefighters are on the scene. But they are immediately confronted with this shocking puzzle. Yes, there's a body in the tank, but how it could have possibly gotten there, it just seemed to defy the laws of physics.
And get this, the body was wedged in there so tightly that the first responders couldn't pull it out. No way. Their only option was to bring in heavy machinery, dig up the whole area, and literally smash the concrete tank to pieces just to get to the body. Now, think about that. If it was that hard to get the body out, how could anyone have possibly gotten in?
And this is where the story becomes physically baffling. I mean, just look at the numbers. The pipe leading from the toilet bowl itself was only 20 centimeters wide. That's less than 8 inches. The main access pit outside wasn't much bigger at just 36 centimeters. We're talking about a full-grown man here. Squeezing through either of those openings just seems utterly impossible. And the details just get stranger and stranger. The man was found shirtless in the middle of a freezing Japanese winter. And even weirder, his sweater was neatly folded and clutched to his chest. He was found curled up with just a few minor scrapes on his elbows and knees. There were no signs of a fight, no defensive wounds, absolutely nothing to suggest he had struggled to get in or to get out. So the victim was quickly identified. He was a 26-year-old local guy, and he was an acquaintance of the teacher who lived there. Faced with all these baffling circumstances, the police started an investigation that would lead to a conclusion that, honestly, many people found just as unbelievable as the crime scene itself. Now, the timeline here is absolutely critical. The teacher had been away from home for a few days visiting family. The coroner estimated the time of death was February 26th, 2 full days before the body was found. And that means one really important thing. The house was empty when the man died inside that tank. The official cause of death was determined to be a combination of 2 things: hypothermia from the freezing cold and something called thoracic circulatory disorder, which, in simple terms, just means the compression of his chest in that impossibly tight space basically suffocated him. So after reviewing all this bizarre, conflicting evidence, the police reached their official conclusion. They ruled the man's death an accident. Their theory was that he had climbed into the tank all by himself. They suggested he was trying to peep on the teacher and had just gotten stuck.
Yeah. As you can imagine, this ruling was met with immediate disbelief. The questions were just so obvious. How did he get in? Why was he shirtless with his clothes folded so neatly? And if it was an accident, why weren't there any signs of a desperate struggle to get out? For the local community, the official story just didn't add up at all.
The victim's friends, his family, and pretty much the entire village just refused to buy the official explanation. Rumors started flying around. The suspicion grew that this wasn't some bizarre freak accident, but something far, far more sinister. And this public doubt wasn't just quiet whispers. No, it was organized, it was loud, and you could boil it all down to a single powerful number. That number, 4,300. That is the number of signatures that the victim's father and friends gathered on a petition, demanding the police reopen the case as a murder. Now, for a small rural community, getting 4,300 signatures was a massive, undeniable statement. But despite the immense public pressure, the police reviewed the petition, and they formally denied the request. They said there was no new evidence pointing to foul play, and so they stood by their original conclusion: accidental death. Period. And with the police holding firm, the case just entered this state of permanent limbo. It was officially closed, but for the public, it was completely unresolved. And that brings us to how this all ended, as a cold, unsolved case. This right here is the legal end of the road. The case was closed as an accident in '89. The public petition to reopen it was denied. And then, in 2004, the final door slammed shut for good. The statute of limitations for murder expired. That means even if someone walked into a police station tomorrow and confessed, no one could ever be charged with a crime. And so, we're left right back where we started. Was this a tragic one-in-a-billion accident that happened because of a really foolish act? Or was it a cleverly disguised murder? A crime where the victim was placed in a location so impossible, so utterly bizarre, that it was dismissed as an accident from the very beginning? That is the question at the very heart of the Fukushima toilet tank mystery.